Alright guys, TacticalRab back again today. I hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far. With the World Championship not too far away, OpTic Texas are saying that their practice has been going much better the past few days than it was leading up to Major 4. Could be a positive sign for their World Championship campaign. But also Crimsix having a fair few words to say for Attach, saying that effectively he was costing his team a lot this season with the way he was playing the game and might actually force some of his players out of the CDL based on just playing for kills rather than for the victories. Very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you are new as always. I greatly appreciate it. Really upset the channel. Thanks very much indeed for doing that one. First of all, just wanted to mention this real quick, of course, as Gerard says, hopefully Sledgehammer ends up releasing London Docks before the World Championship. Yeah, the maps this year haven't quite been as good as they could have been. They did add, of course, USS Texas into the game, a map that was played in Search and Destroy back in World War II originally. Not really a fan favourite, I must say. There were many other maps that were so much better for many game modes, and it is just frustrating, really, when we looked at the map pool we had at the start of the season. The only map that's been added this year is like Berlin Control, right? And it's not even a new map that's been added. It's only just because the game was broken for Control on Berlin. They fixed the spawns and now it works. Like, there's been, usually in years, we get new maps added, like if the developers actually care, but like they just haven't done it. It's kind of frustrating. Dogs, I think, would have made this game much more enjoyable to watch at times, but yeah, of course, it did not happen. Now, before we speak about OpTic, of course, Prolute did sub in for them earlier this season. Still got OpTic Prolute, of course, in his name. He, went out to the Challengers World Championship qualifications last night, losing to Clayster's team, I think, in the winners brackets before getting knocked out. But I mean, yeah, as Prolute says, didn't end up qualifying for champs. That's the Vanguard season over. Huge shout out to OpTic giving me an opportunity to show what I can do in the league. Thanks to everyone who supported me. As Dashi says, you'll be back, brother. You are diffy with it. And Lily says as well, you're a beast. You'll be where you belong. So we'll see what happens here, because Rambo did say before that he does believe that Prolute will get a spot in the league next year. Of course, it's been a little time now since Prolute has been in the league, but he certainly did show up when he was on OpTic earlier this season. I think a lot of organizations will be at least considering Prolute services next year. Whether he quite has as much stock now as he did a couple of months ago, that's of course another question entirely, but these guys still seem to believe that Prolute will get a spot somewhere, and if he doesn't, maybe he'll still be on the OpTic bench, because he seems to be a much more viable substitute for them than General was, for example, when he subbed in, and obviously they decided, okay, we probably want another guy instead of General. So depends if Prolute gets a spot next year. If he doesn't, he's probably still going to be on OpTic's bench, which isn't maybe a bad spot for him to be, but I'm sure he wants to get in a league if the opportunity does present itself. Of course, look, OpTic go through, they're going to play Toronto round 1 of the World Championship. Their Gavutu control is pretty good, but I think they lost it into Toronto, right, in the major that they played them in, or like whoever they lost it to. I think they must have played it against Toronto, maybe. They end up losing it. Technically, it's still their best map mode combination, but it's been a long time really since they actually played it. I've been particularly good at it. They do have a positive record in each game mode. They still look pretty good going into the World Championship, a top 4, of course, and Major 4 was their best result in a little while, but I think it was very clear after the major that they will have to hit new levels if they actually want to win the World Championship, right? Like, their respawn wasn't good enough. Their Search and Destroy was great, but in a lot of the respawns, the Tuscans, especially the controls, and mainly that Bakash hardpoint and the lack of Berlin in their map pool was kind of the key difference maker, right? They're not going to be able to win an event, especially a grand finals with so many maps, if their Berlin isn't really up to scratch. So I think that's what they're going to focus on. And even as Rambo says right here, every single day of practice they played for the last week or so, pretty much since the major, has just got better and better, right? They said their practice going into the major wasn't looking good at all. Every day since then, it's been getting better and better. They've been working on their issues, getting their mindset back into the right place for the final push. There are still some problems, but they've got another week or so to figure all these things out.
Every day of scrims since we've gotten back has been better than the last day. That makes sense? That makes sense, right? There has been progress. Have I recovered from my last stream? Yeah, that was a that was a fun one. Nightbot. Today's scrims were better than the previous day, and yesterday's scrims were better than the previous day, and so on and so forth. The practice has been, we've had progressive practice, I guess you can call it progressive practice, every day since we've gotten back. And as long as we keep progressing and implementing the things we talk about and work towards the common goal, then we will only get better, and we will get to a good position before champs come and give ourselves a chance to win the tournament, which is what matters. Yeah, mostly respawns and scrims. I think in general, like again, our search is in a really good spot. Our understanding and how we go about playing round to round is in a really good spot. Or we're gonna get some reps before champs, but it's not really so much about. I mean, like there's always place for improvement, but especially how this game works, there's not really like there's some strategy and some mindsets, but like most of the rounds are won and lost in the later stages, like the mid stages of the rounds, if you kind of get what I'm saying. So it's not so much about like practicing search is, it's always been hard because it just plays so different in a match. And we feel like we're a really good spot. So again, most of our focus and understanding right now is towards respawn, because that was obviously our weak point.
Let's jump right back into the drama then, baby. I mean, look, Call of Duty doesn't miss right now. So Attach comes straight through with his tier list. Crimsix did this a few days ago, right? Doing it, well, ranking the best players in the world. A relatively similar tier list rankings, I think, here from Attach compared to the others. He does put it, well, Priestahh and Standy in the hard carry category, which I feel like, I mean, yeah, if they were the hard categories, I don't know where Cellium should be, to be honest. But I mean, yeah, this is the tier list he comes up with. Now, Crimsix finds himself all the way down here in the D tier. Pretty spicy. Of course, in fairness, Crim did put himself in the D tier the other day, as it does Attach, but I'm pretty sure in Crimsix's list there was also an F tier, right? So this is the list that Attach comes out with. Now, Crim maybe isn't too happy about putting here in the D tier, especially because he doesn't actually rate Attach's playstyle particularly highly. This is rather spicy because Crimsix, I think, generally has a good idea as to how impactful players are being on the map. He's talked about it a lot with his own team, and has mentioned other players so far this season and last season as well that were being more impactful than others. And last year he put Dashie as like his 25th best player because he said that, okay, Dashie gets good numbers but doesn't really deliver the impact. This year he was saying that actually Dashie is a much more impactful player than he was last season, because last year he had Scump as the best player on OpTic. This year I think he still had Dashie, maybe Shotzi as the best player on OpTic when he did his rankings a few weeks ago. So I think he generally has a decent understanding about, which players are playing in such a way to actually be super impactful and which players aren't. Doesn't mean he's always correct, of course, but in this instance he was implying that Attach is one of those players, maybe even a Dashie-esque player of last season when he's getting a lot of kills, looking good on the score sheet, but how much impact is he really having? Or is he just, well, leaving his team out to dry? That's a question that might well be asked. So Crimsix was doing some VOD review, and even as Standy says here, nice tier list, your S+ tier, we need to hit new levels. Kind of interesting, right? Because if Attach is tweeting this, it seems to imply that he might want to keep teaming with Standy next year, even though, does Attach really want to keep teaming on that Minnesota Rokkr squad? Because they really didn't have much success this season. If I was Attach, I think it's probably time to get out of there, to be honest, but, maybe Attach has a different idea on what he wants to do. Now, Crimsix comes out with this one. He's saying, at Attach, and basically just having a bit of a laugh. And then this comes out in the reply. So I have to scroll up here because it's quite a long one. Attach says, you're trash, show me something at champs, right? So Crim was basically saying on stream that Attach is not really the player that people think he is. He's not quite as good. He plays in such a way to pick up kills, makes his team look worse than they actually are, to the point where he's the player that's going to get the big pay rise and the big, but potentially bonus next year, whatever organization gets him, and his teammates look worse as a result, and potentially might not be in a great spot. So look, whether this is true or not is another question entirely, but this is what Crimsix seems to believe. And in fairness, in Attach's shoes, if that was actually a thought process, I don't really think it was. But whatever the thought process was, if you are Attach, you probably are in a spot now where, because you looked really good the last few months despite not really getting the results, you can pretty much join mostly whatever team you wanted to join if they want to give you a good offer, probably get a lot of money, and his teammates are going to be the ones struggling. As Crim goes on to say, show me your salary increase next year based off your 2022 year's individual performance so I can vomit while laughing, #shameless, and then even as well, your teammate like my performance, bro. So I'm guessing he's talking about either Kismet or Porlex, I'm guessing, because I don't imagine Hydra would send a DM like this to Attach, but when they played each other in the first round of the major, when you reverse sweep them, apparently this is what was being said to Attach after the fact. And then Crim goes on to say, considering we won the series, that's a testament of how useless you killing us quite a lot truly was, and this convo could also be applied to a situation from your teammates DMing you regarding the 6-digit salary decreases next year after you baited them to look pretty and lose. So I mean, yeah, this is vintage stuff from Crim. I'll show a couple of clips here.
I'm not trying to, I actually like you. You know what I mean? I even like your mom. That's not right. My bad, bro. My bad. But she is cool. Your mom's cool with everybody. Okay, so I'm not trying to roast you. I'm trying to help you. Can I break down? You want me to break down? I can go to anyone. So and so is this point. I'm sorry, bro. But if I'm Attach's teammate this year and I read this, and I read this part, right? I'd be disgusted. I'd be disgusted, bro. Because this part right here, where I was like, they're gonna get a salary decrease, right? Not only do I think that out of the three, not only do I think that they'll get all three of them are gonna get a salary decrease, because they look like Attach looks like God. You know what I mean? But I also think that at least 1 out of 3 won't even be in the league next year.
So then after that, Crim goes on to do effectively what is VOD review, right? And goes through, I think Attach joins the call and they're discussing one of the VODs or actually a couple of the maps that they played. And eventually Crim kind of backtracks a little bit and says, okay, you know, fair enough. You're just making plays in certain situations. Probably didn't want to really get into too much of a heated drama on call, but he still seems to believe what he's saying here, right? That the way Attach was playing was not particularly conducive to actually having the results, but rather to make him look particularly good. Now, I still think Attach was playing well, but you know, was he playing at 1.2 KD and hardpoint well in terms of how well they actually were in hardpoint? Because if you look at their numbers here in hardpoint, they were 14 in 10 in the 24 hardpoints they played. But to have numbers like a 1.2, a 1.01, 0.97, and a 1.08, to only go 14 in 10 with those numbers seems a little bit like, it seems like you should have won more hardpoints with numbers like this average, right? Like that would just be my perspective. It's not like his engagement numbers are terribly low, though. It's not like his hill time numbers are terribly low. And we look at the other game mode as well in terms of search and destroy, 1.05, in control of 1.16, still decent engagement numbers, but slower than the rest of his team. So I don't know, depends what you guys think about this, of course. The stats don't necessarily say that Attach is just playing for kills, but I suppose the stats compared to the results might indicate something. But of course his teammates weren't really the players that they've been this year in previous seasons, I suppose. And Attach obviously being pretty sarcastic with this reply. But yeah, Crimsix is saying that Attach is playing it in such a way to benefit his salary next season while screwing over his teammates, because the likes of Standy, who Crim actually I think thinks might actually be the best player on that team still, is not looking good, maybe because of the way Attach is playing, and therefore like players like Standy or Priestahh or whoever might not even get a spot in the league next year because now they don't look very good because of what Attach has done. Now, I don't think that's necessarily right to pin it all on Attach, but like maybe he has a point. So COD drama back in business once again, as you might well expect. Even Paulx does tweet this out, down son, this slump has been so annoying. All good, we go again tomorrow, right? To Paulx individually maybe feeling in a bit of a slump because he didn't play his best, I think he believes, at Major 4 despite doing the job that they needed to get done. So whether he can kind of get back to the form that he feels like he needs to be in for the World Championship, that's going to be a key thing for that entire team to work on and the coaching staff as well, because they need Paulx at full capacity if they want to win it. Just to mention this before we close out the video, thought of an interesting bit of statistical analysis here by Round 11 Stats on the importance of the first rotation in hardpoint. On Gavutu, if the deficit after the first rotation is over 40 points, it's very challenging to get back into the game, which is kind of interesting actually, because 40 doesn't seem like much, but the win rate with a certain lead on certain maps seems rather interesting. So Tuscan, for example, it doesn't matter if you're down 40 points, 60 points, even 80 points at times, 60 to 80 points, you can still come back and win after the first rotation. On a map like Gavutu and Berlin, even Bacage, like Bacage especially really, if you're down by a big number, like even like 75 points or so, you're going to lose the map 92% of the time after the first rotation. The one time that didn't happen actually with even an 80-point advantage was Boston, who managed to blow an 83-point lead after the first rotation to Paris, which is quite something, all things considered. But very much enjoyed your thoughts on all this stuff in the comment section below. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did enjoy it, hit on the like button. Tell us the YouTube gods, this is a good video. I'd also like you should see it as well, and help grow the competitive Call of Duty community. Thank you for watching as always. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you next time.